We've got Michael, he, him in Indiana, who says, how do I figure out if I'm trans? I love this conversation. Interesting topic. So, Michael, thanks for calling in. Set it up for us. Where are you coming from?
A lot of it's entangled in spirituality, religion. So I'm hoping to call back on Sunday as well. But I figured I should talk to people who are, first person experience. But like, how did you all figure out or know it about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like religion helped me understand, but not in the sense that I'm like, oh, there was like a spiritual understanding of myself. It was more like religion taught me that gay and trans people were icky and disgusting and sinful and deserving of hell. And for a period of my life, I was like, I don't think I'm any of those things, so I must not be trans or gay. But then as I got older, I was like, no, I just am those things. And that the religion just confused me about it all. It's really hard to, there was not like a moment where I was like, I'm a girl. It was a collection of things where it's like, when I was forced to hang out with my dad and his guy friends and their sons, I felt like I was in a foreign country. I did not like, I hated interacting with them in that context. I hated the vibes. They were not immaculate. It was also like when I would hang out with my friends who were girls, I would feel like, oh, at peace. Like this feels right. Like playing house with the Legos and at like my second grade classroom and like pretending to be a cat with my best friend Nicole when I was in like first grade. Those were things where I was like, that's where I kind of feel like myself when I'm with like women in my life. And I think eventually I came to find out that there were adults who were not the same gender that they were when they were born. And I was like, holy shit, that's me. That makes so much sense because I was starting to get into like pre-puberty when I was starting to figure myself out. And the notion of me growing into a version of my dad struck me with a deep existential terror, the likes of which I cannot convey. And and then when I was like, oh, I could have that path, that's the one that makes me feel right and that makes sense to me and that I feel at peace with. And that was kind of how it worked for me. But Ben, I don't know how you feel like yours.
Yeah. I had similar experiences as far as religion stuff went, but also similar but opposite experiences in like grade school, like early elementary, where all my friends were boys and like they didn't treat me any different than any of the other guys. And like I felt like in a foreign country with the girls. So, but like I've always been kind of androgynous because there is a lot of enforcement of gender expression in like primarily because I was raised to be the only girl in my family, and so my mom really wanted me to dress a certain way, and especially as I got older, like, hey, this is professional for girls to dress this way, and like
For me, it's
liked the way certain things looked. I liked the way certain things looked, but I did not like how they felt. And I would cry every single time because I would think something looked nice, but I liked it on other people. And then I would never wear the thing because it wasn't for me. And I had some experiences in like starting in middle school and going into high school, kind of breaking out of the enforced like gender roles that I was taught to have. Like I had assumed that if you were going to play a video game, you were going to play as the gender you were assigned because that's just how reality works, but it's not. And so I learned I could go on an MMORPG and you could be in the chat and nobody knows who you are. Nobody can verify
I also
how
did
you
this.
look, what your age. Yeah. And so I went in and I started making male characters. And I was like, I love this. And then I started going to chat into the chat with a different name and like a whole different identity. And I was like, I love this. And then I would leave. I'm like, I hate it. And then I was like, can that just be real life? And it turns out, yeah, it could just be real life. Like I was authentically myself in those places where I didn't have to worry about the baggage. I could just unmask and be authentic. And then when I learned that, no, there are other people like that too. And all we've done is taken that authentic self and used it everywhere. And so, I mean, there are plenty of experiences in my life that kind of go along with that. But I think that's like the earliest point when I learned that I could change what I do about it. Like, I can't change the way I was born. I can't change like what I was assigned. I can't change what society like conditioned me to be, but I can decide where I go from here and what I do with like the time that I have left. Um, so yeah, I think Arden and I have very similar stories.
How does that relate to you, Michael?
I guess I would want to know like how like this what gets beyond like queerness generally. What's more specific? Because like I feel good in makeup and wearing feminine clothing and things of that nature. And to a certain degree I always have. I don't know how to pinpoint it though, beyond, the general, oh, I definitely am queer in some regard.
Sure.
Like
it's
there's
okay
a feminine
to
voice in my internal dialogue that is really like comforting. And I don't know how much I'm supposed to access that, or if that makes sense.
yeah, you might need to play with it. You just might need to try stuff out, see what you're comfortable with. Because I think we've said this to many people on the show that like everybody has hesitation, or at least the majority of people have hesitation with identifying as trans or even people who identify as gay, etc. It can take some time to really come to terms with, is this really me, or do I just think that it's me, or do I just want this to be me? And so like having the
I guess
hesitation
that's more
like
where I'm
doesn't
at.
yeah, it doesn't assign you either way. That the beauty is you get to explore that for yourself, and no one else can tell you how much of it is true for you or not.
Mm.
And if that changes as you go on, then awesome, you learn something about yourself. And like humans are dynamic, all of it is. And so it's kind of intimidating to say, I'm going to try something on. And if you're talking to your friends and asking them to use a different name or pronouns, etc., it can be very intimidating because you wonder, like, if I'm wrong, if I change my mind, uh, am I a failure in some way? Did I like it? And it's easy to have imposter syndrome with that, but like the people who matter in your life and who are going to be supportive of you are going to still be supportive of you. Like even if you're a she her today and a he him tomorrow, it shouldn't matter. All you did was learn a bit more about yourself. So it's hard to say. Like I know when you're going to other people for kind of advice of or trying to compare your stories, it seems unhelpful from our side sometimes to be like, oh, you just got to explore for yourself. But I think maybe take it as freeing and hopefully not as daunting as it can
Yeah,
be.
you don't have to land in a destination. Like I will often say, like I think Ben is completely right about just like evaluating if it's enough for you. If you love doing your makeup, just do that for a while. And if you feel like, I still don't really feel like I feel like I am more feminine than that. Maybe you want to get like laser hair removal. You can start that, and it doesn't necessarily have to make you a trans woman or trans at all. You could just be like, there are men who might want to not have facial hair and to look really feminine. That's totally valid. Uh, I think it's for you
I
to
guess that is
decide.
helpful, that part right there, because like
Yeah.
I have always enjoyed being able to play into the roles of both sides of the binary. Like I can grow a massive beard if I want, and then I can look super androgynous.
Totally.
And I like
Yeah.
to do that. So maybe that's speaking more to not to exactly being trans, but the
Yeah, and you don't have to
gender
pick a
fluid.
side. Like you can embrace all
You'll
of
have
it
to pardon me
if that's the most natural for you.
say wrong terminology at all, because like I am not hip to the lingo, as the kids
It's
would
totally
say.
okay. That's what the show is
Yeah.
for. It's for you to be able to
Mhm.
be where you're at with this topic. So Don't worry about the lingo. I mean, if you say anything that's like particularly offensive, we'll let you know that it is offensive, but I'm not going to be taking offense, and I'm not doing it to shame you. It would just be so I just purely educational. Yeah, I think it is one of the big things that a lot of trans people feel is that I'm not trans enough. Maybe for me, this is just that I like makeup and want to have long hair and, want to hang out with the women at parties and want to be included with the women and everything. And then eventually those things start stacking up and you're like, shit, I am just a woman.
Actually, the long hair, it started for me when I saw the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie and saw Orlando Bloom. I was like, I need my hair to look like that.
Right. Totally. I think, removing like the notion of having to know where you land or pick a category, I think has been helpful for me and helpful for a lot of people watching the show to just know that like, you don't have to have a destination. And I often think when you stop looking for the destination and just start kind of doing the things that feel right to you is when you find the destination. Like you kind of stumble upon it by just existing and living your life as authentically as you can. I don't think it's necessarily like, I have found in my head the collection of neurons that indicate that I'm a woman, so that's what I'm gonna do. Like, it's you could not possibly pick necessary and sufficient conditions for being a woman such that like you could boil it down to something so simple. It really is gonna just be you doing what feels right for you and rolling with that kind of tide. What's making you feel good, what's making you feel like yourself.
And it's possible too, especially mentioning that you're maybe not as hip with the lingo, I guess. But like you can go to the internet and like look up some of the different labels, some of the different identities out there, even look at some neopronouns, look at some people sharing their stories. And it might be that some of these more common experiences just don't resonate with you as well. And maybe you see certain bits of it that click, but maybe somebody else who uses a different label would fit a bit better for you. And I think just exploring different perspectives might kind of point you in certain directions that may be better fit. And you don't have to stick with any of them 100% or even any number of percent. Like the whole point is just to identify what is most natural for you, and then how do I want to communicate that to others. But it might be a combination of experiences.
It's funny because the spirituality and religion is kind of where I find the most, like, I don't know if like comfort from, but going and researching and then finding out that the oldest statues of Aphrodite that we have, she has a penis. Like that's really affirming. That feels like, oh, we've always been here.
Absolutely. Gender diversity has been a part of the human experience. I mean, if you go watch, I think it wasn't last week, but the week before, I was on Chewed Gum with Erica Gutsick-Gibbon. She's a primatologist.
Love her.
Yes, and we talked about how even in primates,
creations, love her.
Yeah, even amongst a lot of primates, while obviously we can't talk to them to be like, hey, what is your gender identity? There are definitely lots of examples in these highly social groups that have sexually dimorphic social behaviors of individuals transgressing those norms. Like the transgression of expectations based on our sex and our biology goes back way, way deeper into our biological history than recorded human history. So I think it is, even in
the recorded human history, it's like Jesus is wearing a women's kit in Revelation 1:13. Like even the people that are most vehemently against it, it's in their book too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to have the conversation with you. We probably don't have time for it today, but about the spiritual element of gender for you. But, obviously everyone's different. And yeah, I'm not trying to like dictate how your journey goes. I just want you to be happy and healthy and feeling like good as yourself. So
I appreciate it. And likewise, I know it's interesting times. Do you know who's hosting Sunday? Because honestly, I just want them to kill my face.
I don't actually know. I don't think we have it. I think we'll have it sorted tomorrow, but we threw Jimmy for a whirl because he's been kind of relying on like Matt and Forrest, and I think both Matt and, at least I know Matt for sure isn't available. I think Forrest might not be either, so I think Jimmy's like panicking trying to put the schedule together. It'll be up probably tomorrow. So yeah.
Tell Jimmy not to worry. I'm going to call.
Cool. Right on. Yeah. Well, if there's anything else you want to add, Michael, I'd be happy to do it, and then we're gonna take the next caller.
And for everybody listening, whether you're in Indiana or anywhere else, like hang in there. It's going to be rough for a little while, but then dawn is dark. It's darkest just before the dawn, as they say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling. We really appreciate you, and
Thank you.
best of luck figuring things out.
Have a good night.
You too.
Yep, you as well.
I want to address the chatter really quickly. After we talked about like, gender norms and not making that a label, being like, oh, maybe I want to grow my hair out. Maybe I want to get laser hair removal, and saying that does not have to indicate anything about the label or your destination. Mark in chat goes, saying having long hair makes you a woman is so regressive. I don't believe for a fucking millisecond that you actually give a shit about what is regressive and not regressive for women. So let's get real about that. But secondly, that isn't even remotely close to what I or Ben said. We specifically said that none of these individual factors are what make a man or a woman. I'm sorry that your brain is so addled and rotted by transphobia that you can't actually hear the words we're saying. But yeah, I don't believe for a second that you give a shit about what is and isn't regressive for women. All right. Sorry, rant over.
Hey, if you liked this video, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't
That's
like
what
it,
you would say.
subscribe.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't even give me a chance.
There was such a long pause.
What are you on speed or
All right, let's
something? I barely had a
Let's
chance.
try again. Hey, I hope you liked. Hey, I hope you. Fuck. Hey there. I hope you liked that clip. Hey, I hope you liked that clipper just now, the one that you just watched with your eyes. If you did like it, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't like it, tell Jimmy to go fuck himself.
Hey, I hope you liked that clip right now. If you did like it, why don't you hit that like button?
And if you didn't like it, go ahead and subscribe anyway.